if it were to pass as it is, if that development had come afterwards. I do know that the growth policy plan, the map that delineates between rural areas and suburban residential and all in the expanded growth area, that the map includes in that Choteau area, it has it listed as, I believe, at least 2 dwelling units per acre. They have it in part of the rural area or potentially expanded growth area. So it could have 2 units an acre at minimum, I believe, and it also included a neighborhood commercial area, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So it could have made it to where the developers, Dominion Group, might have already had the proper zoning they needed to move forward. Okay.
And so would that have precluded the objection that the residents had? Would Advance Knox have allowed this process to move forward faster for Dominion had Advance Knox been in place?
It would have been easier. It would have helped them, definitely.
Okay. All right. I really want to go to that meeting on tomorrow. I'm going to try to make every schedule adjustment I can make to be there, because I just think that there's going to be a good, healthy discussion about where we are in the process, and we maybe some uncharted waters. So I look forward to being a spectator at your next legislative session of the Knox County Commission. And I've taken up so much of your time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask you if you'll stay on long enough to talk a little bit about AMR, if you've got the time.
I have time, I think, for one more segment.
All right. Well, let's jump right in. And we'll probably have to go to a break in a few minutes, but we can certainly set the stage for the discussion. We've talked over the last year or so. We've talked about the ambulance contract. AMR has the contract, and there's always been this problem with their response times. And there have always been reasons that AMR has given for some of those delays, and the offloading time has risen to the top of the discussion because AMR can only leave the hospital having brought a patient in. They can only leave that patient there until the hospital takes custody or takes responsibility for that patient. So sometimes AMR's representatives are just kind of standing around waiting on the hospital to free up the time, the space, and the resources to be able to accept the patient that AMR has in their vehicle. So what are the challenges now? Because I know that there are probably more complaints with the percentage of missed ambulance calls being somewhere up over 30%. What is the consideration now of the county commission as it relates to the ambulance contract where it stands?
Well, so the new ambulance contract went into effect on February 1st of this year. Okay. We should be getting our first report. If it's not tomorrow, it will be in May, from Brent Seymour, he's over emergency services now for the county. So we will be getting a report from him on what is improving, what AMR is doing well, what maybe needs improvement. So we will be getting that very soon. But as you stated, it isn't necessarily an ambulance provider only situation. It goes into hospitals being overwhelmed. It goes into not having enough staff. There are so many factors that go into this. And so that's what we'll be looking for, at least from our ambulance providers' perspective, is are they keeping up with this new contract? There are more policies in place to hopefully keep them from falling behind as they were previously. So that's what we'll be looking at.
And have you gotten any contact from anybody, any of your constituents, talking specifically about their experience?
Not from individual residents. I do keep in close contact with KFD, with Knoxville Fire, because with my district being completely within the city, they are part of the first response team. They can do everything except transport the victim to the hospital. So that's where they would have to rely on the ambulance service. So I keep in contact with them, and getting reports on response time and that sort of thing. And again, it could fall on the ambulance, or it could fall on the hospital, or, there are a number of factors. So that's what I try to stay in touch with KFD on those types of things, on response times and how quickly the ambulance got there and that sort of thing.
Courtney, thanks.
And
go ahead.
I do want to add, if we can.
Go ahead.
The new contract has provided for a group, a chief medical, I don't want to say medical officer, but an advisory group that includes KFD, it includes rural metro, it includes ambulance provider, it includes all of the players, so they can sit down, discuss the issues, discuss what's working,